Jake files for Social Security at 62. Marcus waits until 70. Same job, same salary, same employer for 35 years. They retired the same month, from the same building, with roughly the same amount sitting in their 401s. And then they made one decision that separated them by 6 figures before either of them had unpacked a single box in their new lives. One of them is collecting a check every month that looks fine on the surface, but will quietly cost him somewhere between $150,000 and $200,000 over a full retirement. The other is waiting 8 years on a guarantee that pays him 8% more for every single year he holds out. And the difference between those two outcomes has nothing to do with the market, nothing to do with their portfolios, and everything to do with a question almost nobody asks before they file. Call it even, Jake and Marcus both turned 62 years old. Both earned around $85,000 a year at their peak. Both retired with approximately $900,000 in their 401ks. Same Social Security work history, same 35 years of contributions into the system. Their projected benefit at full retirement age, which for both of them is 67, comes out to roughly $2,200 a month. At 70, that number climbs to about $2,816 a month. At 62, it drops to $1,540. That $1,276 monthly gap between filing at 62 versus waiting until 70 is not a rounding error. That is the entire ballgame. And most people never see it because the Social Security Administration doesn't put it on a billboard. They just hand you a form and ask when you'd like to start. Jake filed at 62 because the math felt obvious to him. He'd been paying into the system for 35 years. The money was sitting there. Why wait? His neighbor told him to take it early and invest the difference. His brother-in-law said the government might cut benefits anyway. His gut said $1 today beats $1 in 8 years. But none of them are doing the actual calculation either. Here's what Jake's $1,540 monthly check looks like over time. In year 1, he collects $18,480. Over 5 years, that's $92,400. On paper, he has $92,400 that Marcus doesn't have yet. From where Jake is sitting at age 67, he looks like the winner by nearly 6 figures, except he locked in that $1,540 permanently. Every cost of living adjustment he gets for the rest of his life is applied to that reduced base. The gap doesn't close. It compounds in the wrong direction. Marcus filed at 70. Those 8 years between 62 and 70 feel like a long time. They feel especially long when Jake is cashing checks and Marcus is pulling from his 401k to cover the gap. But Marcus ran the numbers before he filed. He found the break-even point. That's the age at which waiting pays off more than filing early. At current benefit levels for both of them, Marcus breaks even on his decision at roughly age 80. If he lives past 80, every month that follows is money Jake will never see. And here is what almost nobody wants to admit publicly. The average 62-year-old man in the United States today will live to about 84. The average woman, 87. The break-even point sits well inside the average life expectancy. Waiting isn't gambling on a long life. It's the statistically sound call for most people. Here's the first thing almost nobody calculates before they file. The reduction for claiming at 62 isn't temporary. It doesn't phase out. It doesn't reset at full retirement age. The Social Security Administration takes your full benefit and permanently reduces it by up to 30% for filing 5 years before your full retirement age. That 30% cut follows you for life. Every year you collect, that reduced number is your starting point. If Congress passes a cost of living adjustment of 3.2% next year, Jake gets 3.2% of $1,540. Marcus, when he eventually files at 70, gets 3.2% of $2,816. The gap between them doesn't stay at $1,276 a month. It grows every single year because the same percentage is being applied to 2 very different base amounts. Over a 20-year retirement, that compounding disadvantage adds up to real money, not theoretical money, actual dollars that one of them will never deposit. Now look at what Marcus is doing between 62 and 70. while he waits. He's drawing from his 401k to cover living expenses. That part is real, and it costs something. Every dollar he pulls from that account is a dollar no longer compounding. If he withdraws $30,000 a year for 8 years to bridge the gap, that's $240,000 out of his portfolio. At a 7% average return, the opportunity cost of pulling that money early rather than leaving it in for another 8 years is roughly $80,000 to $100,000. That cost is real, and it belongs in the calculation. The Roth versus traditional crowd ignores it. The delay until 70 crowd ignores it. Both of them are doing what every one-sided retirement video does. They're showing you the upside of their answer and leaving the downside in a drawer. Jake spent those 8 years collecting $1,540 a month, total collected between 62 and 70, roughly $147,840. That is the head start Jake banks while Marcus waits. At age 70, Marcus starts collecting $2,816 a month. Jake is still collecting his $1,540, now adjusted slightly for inflation over the years, but still anchored to that original reduced amount. From age 70 forward, Marcus brings in roughly $1,276 more every single month. He recovers his 8-year head start in about 116 months. That's just under 10 years. At age 80, Marcus has caught up completely. Every month after that, Marcus is ahead. At age 85, Marcus has collected roughly $55,000 more in total lifetime benefits than Jake. At age 90, that gap is over $130,000. These aren't projections built on optimistic assumptions. This is arithmetic. Here's what makes it worse for Jake and what almost every early filing article skips entirely. Jake is married. His spouse is 2 years younger and earned significantly less over her career. Her own Social Security benefit comes out to about $900 a month at her full retirement age. When Jake dies, his spouse doesn't keep both checks. She keeps the larger of the two. If Jake's benefit is $1,540 and his wife's is $900, she steps up to $1,540 after he passes. If Jake had waited and filed at 70 with a $2,816 monthly benefit, his wife would step up to $2,816. That $1,276 monthly difference doesn't disappear when Jake dies. It transfers directly to his wife for the rest of her life. For a woman who is 2 years younger than Jake and statistically likely to outlive him by several years, that's potentially $15,000 to $20,000 a year she will never see because of a decision he made at 62 without running that number. No upper earnings cap exists on the Roth 401k, which carries quiet power. But the Social Security earnings test is a completely different trap, and it catches early filers constantly. If you file for Social Security before your full retirement age and you're still working, the SSA reduces your benefit by $1 for every $2 you earn above $22,320 in 2024. Jake filed at 62 and then took a part-time consulting job bringing in $40,000 a year. His income over the threshold is roughly $17,680. The SSA withholds $8,840 of his annual benefit. His $18,480 annual Social Security income drops to $9,640 for the years he's still earning. He filed early precisely because he thought he needed the money. The earnings test cuts the check in half. This is the part nobody explains before you sign the form. Add it up. Jake filed at 62, collected a reduced benefit, got hit by the earnings test during his part-time working years, locked his wife into a lower survivor benefit, and watched the cost of living adjustments compound on a smaller base for 20-plus years. Every one of those consequences flowed from one decision made on one afternoon at one government website. Marcus waited, drew down his portfolio for 8 years, hit break even at 80, and from that point forward collected $1,276 more every month for the rest of his life, with his wife protected by that higher survivor floor. Same contribution, same work history, same retirement date, completely different financial outcome. The gap isn't close. It isn't a matter of opinion, it's a matter of how long both of them live, and the actuarial tables are not on Jake's side. Now here's the calculation everyone avoids speaking about. Everything we just walked through assumes Marcus lives past 80. If he dies at 75, Jake made the right call. The traditional break-even analysis only works if you live long enough to cross the break-even point. A 62-year-old in poor health with a family history of early death and a genuine reason to believe he won't see 80 has a legitimate case for filing early. That person is not the average filer, but that person exists, and the math is different for him. The mistake isn't always filing at 62. The mistake is filing at 62 without ever asking what the break-even age is, whether your health and family history put you above or below it, and what happens to your spouse if you're wrong. Scenario 1. A 62-year-old in excellent health with a family history of longevity and a spouse who earned less over her career. Filing early is almost certainly a mistake. Every year she waits past 62, her monthly benefit grows. Every year, her husband waits past 62. Her survivor benefit protection grows. The math at age 85 or 90 is not close. Waiting wins, and it isn't close. Scenario 2. A 62-year-old with serious health conditions, no spouse, and actuarial reasons to believe the break-even age is not in reach. Taking benefits early is a reasonable financial decision. The money is real, and the future is not guaranteed. Filing early for this person is not a mistake. It's math. Scenario 3. This is most people. A 62-year-old in average health married with no specific reason to believe they won't reach their mid-80s. They file early because they feel like they've earned it and because waiting feels abstract. That feeling costs them somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 over a full retirement. That's the mistake, not the logic. The feeling. Here's something most Social Security videos never mention. The 8% annual increase for delaying past full retirement age stops at 70. There is no benefit to waiting past 70. None. Zero. If you're going to delay, 70 is the hard ceiling. Every month past 70 that you wait is money left in a government account earning you nothing. Marcus filed the month he turned 70. Not 70. And 3 months? Not 71. The math has a stopping point, and that stopping point is 70. There's a tax dimension to this that gets glossed over in every filing age conversation. If your combined income, meaning adjusted gross income, plus half your Social Security benefit, plus any tax-exempt interest, crosses $34,000 as a single filer or $44,000 as a married couple, up to 85% of your Social Security benefits become taxable as ordinary income. Jake is pulling from his traditional 401k to cover expenses and collecting Social Security at the same time. His 401k withdrawals count as income. His Social Security benefit, even at the reduced $1,540 a month, adds to that total. He crosses the threshold. Now, 85% of his already reduced Social Security check is being taxed as ordinary income. Marcus, by waiting until 70 and pulling more strategically from his portfolio before Social Security. ID kicks in, has years to manage his taxable income below that threshold. His Social Security benefit is larger, and a smaller portion of it gets taxed. Same system, same rules, different outcome purely from sequencing. Fidelity estimates that the average 65-year-old couple retiring today may need around $330,000 set aside specifically for healthcare costs, not counting any long-term care expenses. That number is not the cost of getting sick. That's the baseline cost of being healthy in retirement and still paying premiums, co-pays, deductibles, and out-of-pocket expenses that Medicare doesn't cover. One of the primary reasons people file at 62 is that they need cash to cover health insurance between retirement and Medicare eligibility at 65. They haven't built a bridge to 65 in their savings plan, so Social Security becomes the bridge by default. That is a planning failure that ends up costing 30% of their monthly benefit for the rest of their life. The solution to a 3-year healthcare gap is not a permanent 30% reduction in income. It's planning for the 3-year gap before you retire. None of this means delaying Social Security is always the answer, but the number on your Social Security statement is not your number until you've asked what age you're filing and why. The people who file at 62 because it feels right, because their neighbor said to, because they don't trust the government to keep the program solvent, or because they just want what they've earned. Most of them never modeled the break-even age. Most of them never calculated the survivor benefit impact on their spouse. Most of them never added up what 85% taxation of their benefit does to their net monthly check when 401k withdrawals are running in the background. Most of them made a permanent, irreversible six-figure decision in an afternoon without running a single number past month 1. And most of them why? All repeated exactly the same way if you asked them to do it again, because the check showing up in the account feels like winning, and the abstract $1,276 they're leaving on the table every month for the next 20 years doesn't feel like anything at all.